How you doing, everybody? Hey, Geezer and Stefan and uh, Kevin and Abdul and Val and Crappy. Hey, Jeffrey. Let's see. Okie doke. How was everybody today? Hi, Watch Habit. Hi, Glenn. Okay, good. Good to see everyone this morning. Well, a lot has happened since yesterday, since we met in the morning. Those of you who were in the afternoon group uh, sort of know about what happened, and that was hi, Mark, and hi, Adam. Um, we got what did I do? I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah, a while ago, hi, Ines something, Dominic. A while ago, I had written to uh, Nicholas Viderek, who's uh, I see what's his name, Jean Marc's son. Jean Marc Viderek, of course, is the head of Agenor, and Nicholas is one of the guys who works there. Hi, Sean, and so just sort of as I said, hey, could we possibly buy a movement from you? And so he said, well, yeah. He said, we'll have to figure something out. He said, let me have your phone number. And 5 minutes later, I got a phone call from him. And we talked about this. And we talked about it yesterday about having a movement. So this is another option. Now, right now, I think we've got two solid good options. One with Rolf Lang, and but that I don't know how many that would be, but I do know the movement, which is quite nice. Then we can get the UWD 33.2 with the center seconds. Now, one of the things with the Agenor, hi John, hi Tim, with the Agenor movement is it's sort of like those guys can do anything. I mean, they're like talent on a stick. They're really good. So, what I was thinking, somebody said, "Well, how about having a retrograde?" Hi, Kaz. Um, and I thought, nah, I don't want a retrograde because I mean, I would just complicate things and wanted something nice and simple. But then I thought about it. I thought, well, maybe that would be cool, is to have something, some kind of retrograde movement that would, because these guys are experts in it, and they probably have something, like on the shelf somewhere that they could possibly use or modify for us. So the other thing is that we can't just take a leftover, okay? Like everything in that hour here, an hour there. That one, boy, that would be great. Oh yeah, here we'll send you guys some. It's got a micro rotor and so forth in it, and I don't think they want to do that because Van Cleef and Arpels paid a lot for the development of that movement, and they wouldn't want a bunch of basically what we're doing is making a club watch. So these are some of the issues. So someone said, here's the dilemma. Agenor would, wants to know how many people want one. So so they can sort of get an idea of a price on it. And they said, if it's going to be one or two, it'd be pretty expensive. And I can see that because they're going to have to put in the same amount of modification or whatever work they have to do on it. And I said that we wanted a simple three-hand center second watch. Well, then as I thought about it more, I thought, well, maybe we could do something. So let me show you what's been going through my mind. Also, too, after looking at that Voutilanen and Callan case, the Metropolis font, well, is a very cool font. I just don't think works with that. Somebody who's a designer pointed that out, and I think they're right. And so I thought, well, I'll just put in some, fairly common fonts and with not a whole lot of style. I'm not a designer. I thought, well, I'll have the 12, 6, 9, and 3, and then maybe a smaller fonts for the other ones. And like I said, and then with this too, we could use the Breguet hands if we still wanted to do that. All right. So the other thing I thought, well, maybe they could take that movement, they could take that movement. And so I came up with something like this. Okay. Have the retrograde movements on the top half of the watch, and then have a jumping hour at the bottom. Now, this is very much the same idea that was in the Van Cleef and Arpels watch, but lots of other differences. First of all, it's not a dual time. Second of all, the arc, there's a whole half a watch arc rather than just a little sort of about a third of the watch on the left. This is on the top. And I don't know. I thought, what the heck, why not? So I sent him copies of both of these, and thought, we'll see what happens. Now, what I'm trying to do is find something that would not be expensive for them to produce for us. I also mentioned we'd like it in a 40 millimeter case. Now, I think that the Van Cleef and Arpels one is 42 or something like that, even possibly bigger. And so if that has to happen to get it at an affordable price, that's something else. That's another kind of thing. Now, so what I did this morning before we got started is I emailed Nicholas Wiederreich. And one of the things I did that somebody suggested yesterday, they said, why don't you put a number of different ones down, like 5 or 10 or something like that? And so I did, and I took it up to 15. And man, I tell you, the whole idea of having a watch with an Agenor movement, a Woughton, Lannon, and Callan case would just be, it would just be great. And then with an enamel dial. I'd have to get a designer to do the watch face. Now, another thing that struck me, let me see here, is this is a Woughton Lannon watch. The case is exactly the same we had in mind. The font set and the hands. Now, the hands use a fatter version of Breguet. And the last thing I want, I think when we talked about it, we wouldn't want something that looks like sort of a copy of somebody else's. Okay. I really don't like that. But rather something that we put together, the font set. We're not going to develop our own font set like Hermes has or something like that, nor can we use their font set that they develop for their own watches. But when I was looking at this, I realized that the font is almost the same as this one. And this is one on one of the watches I made myself. This is one that I took apart and put together that we saw earlier on. Okay. Well, this is like what, $20, 40, 50, maybe $100 tops for this. And this is a $70,000 watch. So it's like, it's called a 28E. And, there's a brilliant movement inside, and that's why it's so expensive. But when you look at the dial on it, it's small seconds and time only, which is okay. The small seconds sort of like the major function, I think, is to tell you that the watch is running. Now, on this one, there is no small seconds, and you'd have to look at the back and see if the balance is spinning to see if it's running or not. So anyway, yeah, and I wore my, this is my Harry Winston. It has a bi-retrograde. Okay. So one thing that Mark said, yeah, about the having a local watchmaker do the assembly for you, that's fine. Uh, I have there's a French term that we have to come up with. It means it's just an assembler. Jacques SA was essentially an assembler, and I think so is Laju Pereire. That what they became. So there's no, this is. But I like to think of myself as a pretentious assembler, not just a regular one. Okay, so what are some of your thoughts? Maybe leaf hands. Yeah, yeah, there's a foulet or something like that. The French term for it. I can change a strap. Okay, all right, Jeff. You'll have to send all of the watches go to Jeff for strap changing. That's another thing too. We really there's really three parts that we've got to nail down. The first one is the movement. Once we have the movement, we can go to Vouten Lannon and Canlon for the case. And once we have the case, this guy, I got to check him out. But there are a lot of dial and hand maker. Now this guy, I forgot to keep forgetting the name of him. This is my post-pandemic interview. He makes watches left and right. And so if we had the case, we had the movement, it wouldn't be hard for him to, if it's if we do a retrograde, it's just a hole in the center and a window at the bottom. It didn't have to be square. I just put in a square because it could be oval or it could be anything. The reason I didn't use oval, that was too much like the one that Van Cleef and Arpels did. So anyway. Are the indices going to be printed or painted or applied? Geezer, I really don't know. It's a good question because it's like enamel. I don't know how to do that stuff. I sort of looked at a do-it-yourself kit for enamel, and that was as far as I got. And then I started thinking, Moser's got a point with those totally blank dials that they have. So I don't know. Does anybody know if they? I don't know how they do it with. Does anybody know how they do it with enamel? Alpha hands. Okay, Abdul. Yeah, we could have a name embossed on the dial. Okay, all right. We'll have a name embossed on the dial. Okay, if you want your gold platinum lug scratched, and send your straps to me. Yeah. Oh, this is I always, even with my homemade watches that I make myself, I always do it on the back because the scratches will be on the back where you can't see them. This is thing I like about these big 70 what are they called, 6498, or this is a 6497 movements, is that they're nice and big and they're fun to look at. So anyway, now like I said, this morning I emailed VitaRec, and we'll just have to wait. Maybe we'll find out. I also sent them a text and some other stuff. Hey, Dwayne, what about using Roger Smith's watchmaker? I don't know. I tell you what, Dwayne, your job is to contact Roger Smith and see if he can handle it for us, okay? Let us know what happens. With enamel, isn't the printing under the last firing of glaze? Kevin, I don't know. Like I'm an assembler, not a dial maker. I have no artistic talent whatsoever. Basically what I did is just took standard fonts and, pop this thing together as an idea. Okay, these are all conceptual ideas. But the fact that this one was, for this watch, what you get when you get a Wooten Lannon, you get this fabulous movement. Some of his watches, you get a fabulous dial too, because he's won some awards just for the dial design. But on something like that, she's got a pretty fair, it's a fairly standard font and dial, and like this guy right here, same idea. Boy, the sun is something like that. Anyway, it's the same. It's the same pattern. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Watch habit. You're talking in tongues. Okay. Painted would be the best when it comes to white enamel dials, especially if it's in blue Arabics. Oh, Arabic numbers. What about no dial? Just a metal arch track with retrograde minutes. Yeah, I like that. That I like. One thing I was thinking, because I've got I got my dials. These are blank dials, and with a hole in the middle, and all I'd have to do is figure out how to put a window at 6 o'clock, and Bob's your uncle. It's all done. And having and then having a pure enamel, sort of a creamy white enamel, a light cream. Ronald Murphy has a good video on enamel dials. He prints the dial before the last firing. Okay, I've seen some of his stuff. He has, another possibility at one time. Well, in fact, I may still do it. Is contact Roland Murphy for one of his seconds. He goes on and on about, when he pulls all of these dials out of a kiln. Some of them, have bubbles or something weird with them, and so he can't use them. So I was going to contact him and say, hey, I'm a pretentious watchmaker. What about us? And buy them rather than, have them throw them in the trash bin or something, but not for this watch. This watch, I think we ought to make it really nice. Then we have this incredible watch, I don't know. Hey, Caracas, a dial made of a single diamond, and all the indices are numbers carved from green emeralds, full rows. Going Elton John, huh? Yeah, that would be bling, 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 bling. No, I think the notion of a really quality simplicity, I think, is where you have your real beauty, not with a lot of, other kinds of things. But the thing of it is, Caracas, this is going to be your own watch. If all you want is the movement and the case to go with it, and you want to make your own dial in your own hands, not a problem. Because we can do this, so we can step it one at a time. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and we just got news that will be a lot of people in bad trouble because of the premature opening that we've been having. It's just a mess. So we'll see what happens, and we may have another wave of it in the fall of the late fall. Who knows? That jumping hour retrograde would look amazing on a black onyx dial. Think about it. You think about it, Kevin. I like a white cream dial that I can see. Yeah, I'm not saying what wouldn't look good, and once we get to the dial part, you guys can do what you want. Really, I think we could probably, we'll talk to this guy and say, hey, we want X number of black ones, we want X number of blue ones, this guy wants a brown one, and so forth. But black, I can't, here's a black dial. I don't dislike black dials. I just have a hard time reading them because of the contrast with this has sort of a black dial with gold hands and indices on it. And you got to look at it, but I don't mind looking at my watch. So as a watch collector, now if I were working in the pits of the Chicago commodities exchange, then I'd want something with big numbers, blue hands, black numbers, and cream dial, something like that. I don't know about the blue hands, though. I've been rethinking that. Maybe it'd look better in black. I'm not sure. I mean, blued hands is sort of a thing to have, but something about blue hands is that you have to turn them just right. Otherwise, they look black, which is fine with me too. Okay. Brigade Classic style would be superb. White cream dial is gorgeous. That's what I was thinking too. Optimism. Hey, Lee, there's certain things I'm very optimistic about. And other ones, what's going to happen? What's the worst thing that could happen? We couldn't get it done. All right. That's the worst thing. The best thing, we would have a movement by Agenhor or Marco Lang or Rolf Lang. Okay. Those options, none of which are bad. Case by Voutilanen and Kalin, and a dial we can't agree on, so we all get different dials. I mean, that would be that would have something that we could have that would be rare. That'd be fun. Be a fun thing to do. Retrograde was never my thing. I might change my mind. Lots of proposals on the table now. This intellectual lecture is way too much for my narrow mind. I'll see what you come up with. Okay, that's it's the options. Man, I tell you, it's as a project. There really aren't that many parts. Movement, case, dial. The strap is nothing to it. How much you expect the final watch to cost? Val, that is another thing. We don't know the cost of the movement. We don't know the cost of the case. It wouldn't make any sense to speculate on that. It might be more than we want, or it might be less. All I know is that watches of this caliber are usually around $20,000. Now you must say, well, what about opium? Or not opium, sorry, Ophion. What about Ophion? Yeah, they're doing great things. I think the big difference though would be the difference between a Teletyne movement and a Agenhor or a Marco Lang or a Rolf Lang movement. That's huge difference. This is all coming from Europe. You should look at Statory Ballard. He's made club watches before. Okay. And that's something. Where is he located? Tim, either this or a Patek 6006. Yeah. Geezer. In France. Okay. Well, that would certainly be something that'd be cool too. Does Statory Ballard have any like samples? That's one thing. You go to the Voutilanen and Kalin, and they don't have any sort of standard cases that we could say, hey, I like this one. I think this one. I do like the one that basically is the what Voutilanen uses in this. I think he uses them in the Vings and a lot of other ones, and I just like them. I mean, as a dial, which would be unique. Yeah, Carrasas, we're familiar with the 318. Let's see. Has a few variations on the site. He uses simple STP movements, but having him do a version with a great movement and custom dial would be cool. That'd be cool. Val, it's Ophium, not opium. Let me see. Oh, I make dials too. Okay, well, I got a local guy that we can sort of look over our shoulder with if we could. Oh yeah, I'm better with French and German. Yeah, maybe we better go Spanish then. Um, Ophian, Val. That's take a look at their site. That's where I got a lot of the ideas from them. The idea that they had was to go after good quality and make it affordable. And man, I tell you, they've got a great watch, great looking watch, very affordable and very different. And I hope they do well. I think they should do well. I mean, like they're talking about a couple $1,000 or so, something like that. I don't know, between 2 and 4,000 for a watch with a really. Oh, you're near Strasbourg. Okay. Um, uh-oh. Stefan, you're supposed to speak Austrian. Demi Bose. Okay. Yeah. I don't think in the EU you have to smuggle. Hey, Andrews, how you doing, everyone? Oh man. Well, listen. Yesterday we got carried away and we went on for a whole hour, and I've got the word. God, my chocolate and coffee are are getting cold, so um, got to run, and maybe by the 4 o'clock video we'll have more information. So anyhow. Hey, Michael, sorry you missed it, guy, or you've been here quietly. Take care, everybody, and be safe. And either hasta mañana or hasta luego.